So for those of you who have daughters, we'll be meeting in the fall to talk about how they're doing, their progress, what they can work on, and all of that. Just to give you a little bit about my background, I come from a background in public schools. I worked in public schools for several years in Gwinnett County, and I taught specifically in Title I schools. And I was in one school in particular for several years, and that was the beginning of my teaching career. So after several years, I started to look elsewhere, and that's how I ended up at Wesleyan. And I just really, really love Wesleyan. Something about the way the school tries to develop and teach the whole child, and not just grow academically, but socially, spiritually as well, really appealed to me. So this is my third year at Wesleyan, and my second year as a grade chair. Since I've been here, I've taught English. I started teaching 6th and 7th grade English, and now I just stick with the 7th graders. But I enjoy it very, very much, and so I look forward to working with your children. I do teach boys and girls, so even if you don't have a daughter, I may teach your son an English class.
Good morning, I'm Dean Jackson. I know some of you either from track or because your older child has come through at some point. I've been at Wesleyan for 7 years, spent the bulk of my years in education in public school before I came here, like Anna. Simplest way to explain how I ended up at Wesleyan from public school is I was teaching up the road in Northview and going to church in Marietta, no, not Marietta, Alpharetta, and one of the Sunday school class members, in that only God moment, said, "Hey, you talk a lot about your frustrations with public school, and can I just plant a bug in your ear and just get you to think about Wesleyan?" And her daughters attended here, and I did, and here I am, and I would never go back. Never would go back. Don't worry, I won't volunteer. I taught English for a long time, and even when I first came here, taught high school English, and then was doing so many middle school things, everything from track, mission trips, Bible studies, basketball, everything was middle school, and then just when Joseph moved into the principal's job, it was just kind of everybody that knew me kept nudging me and said, "Yes, you should." And here I am, and I love it, and I don't want to go back to high school either. As much as that sounds kind of funny, it's like the middle years, and it's like, I like it, I really do. And I don't want to go to 8th grade, and I don't want to go to 6th grade, I love it, 7th grade, which is good for you. So, let me open this in prayer. By the way, the hat is because usually after a long weekend or a holiday or something, it's back to work, and they figured it out. There's this kind of running joke that it's Bob the Builder, which surprises me because I didn't think this generation knew Bob the Builder, but everything's online, so that's the joke. But it's back to work, so I'll get around that. So let's pray. Dear God, we thank you so much for another beautiful day that you've given us. We thank you for your creation, and we thank you for your Son, the opportunity to celebrate his coming for us, his dying on the cross for us, and what Easter really means. We thank you for the great place that Wesleyan is and the mission that you've given us here. We thank you for opportunities to see you at work on a daily basis. Help us to open our eyes, to open our hearts to your word and to your acts, and to see those and share those with others. We thank you for this time together. We ask that you bless it, that it may glorify you as well. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, so in our short time together, hopefully we can start to put faces with names a little bit. We're going to give you guys just sort of an overview of how things may progress a little bit in 7th grade. We'll talk about the extracurriculars available to them, the course registration that's going to start soon, and how you should register your child for a class, as well as just how we would like them to grow socially and emotionally.
This is our theme verse. When Anna joined me and we switched grade chairs a couple of years ago, we decided that we'd switch theme verses as well. Goodness knows there's plenty of great verses that would apply. But we felt like this was kind of one of those generic enough to get to 7th graders and understand, man, there are moments when instead of running somebody down, you should encourage people. Help those people who need help. We had a boy in 7th grade this year who's been out 9 days. And if you miss 9 days of school, it's overwhelming. And it's like there are moments where you can help. whether it's notes or just asking sometimes is enough. And so those little moments of this is how you live the mission out. So that's our theme verse. We love the relationships that we have with kids on a daily basis. It's not just those, it's the idea of relationships with God too. I teach Bible. I did teach English the first year in 7th grade, and then I got the opportunity to switch and teach Bible. And so at some point, first semester, second semester next year, I'll have everybody in 7th grade, which I like too. So we want those relationships to build in terms of God, whether that's through Bible study or just moments in the hall kind of thing as well. We don't look at your children as a finished product. That they are a work in progress, and there are going to be moments for you and for us too, and it's like, what just happened? Wait, who are you? And that's sometimes a good thing. And it's, it's a moment for growth, it's a moment for change, it's a moment to reflect and to think, that wasn't the best thing to say, or maybe that was just awesome. And we like those moments too, the moments to encourage and to call them out for good things and for positive things as well. But it is continually, it's the challenge of growing, and 7th grade is different than 6th grade, and it's a little step up. We've already alluded to that through registration. It's the first year of exams, and it's the transition. I think if you walk down the hall, for those of you who have 8th graders or have had 8th graders, you realize there is a difference. And I don't know what it is, there's nothing magical about the stairwell, but once you cross past Greg Liston's office and you go to the 8th grade hall, number one, they've grown a lot between 7th and 8th, physically, like Thomas Chipman, it grew more. But wow, and we've seen that even in 7th grade, when they come to us in the fall, they're smaller and younger, and wow, growth that we see, and we like that. And so I hope that you will encourage that as well in moments where it's like, man, if it requires detention, then it's not the end of the world. It's a growth moment, and there's a moment when, hey, we try to tell you, you're not really listening, let's try a little harder to tell you that. Those things don't go with them once they cross into high school, so just understand it's a teachable moment, and we needed something a little more forceful. But we hope you support us in that, and we'll support you in that. And we are here for you at any point. I've been amazed. One of the things that's so different when I first came to Wesleyan was the idea of accessibility of teachers and grade chairs, in particular in that model. In public school, I don't know about you, but never in a million years would I have given my phone number out. And everybody has it. You have it on the page. You have an office number as well as our cell phone number. I don't normally have it on now just because we're away from the hall, just in case. But I don't normally carry it during the day. So for me, it's kind of modeling that for them. Your phone goes in your locker, and mine I don't carry. They know that. And if there's some special moment, I tell them. It's like if I go to class, I have my phone with me, just so you know. But I don't want to be attached to that. I'm more accessible on the weekends, you should know that, by cell phone than I am with school email. So if you need to get me then, it's fine. And I trust you. That it'll be a need, and it'll be an emergency, that kind of thing, but that's fine. And it happens occasionally. So we want to be accessible to you as well.
As for accessing me too, cell phone is fine. I have found that even though we provide our cell phone numbers out to parents and kids, I've only had one parent in the 3 years I've been here actually use it and reach out to me that way. Most people use email, and that's fine with me also. So either way that works for you, feel free to contact me that way. And we both also have the advantage of having an office phone. So if you call and we don't answer, you can leave a message, and then it will actually email us an audio clip of that message. So even if we're not in the office, we can still listen to whatever your concern was or your question was and get back to you somehow that way. All right, so as kids move from 6th grade to 7th grade, one thing I noticed my first year here, because I was teaching 6th grade and 7th grade, was that there is an increase, I think, in the rigor and the difficulty of the courses, and I think 7th and 8th grade kind of align more, and 5th and 6th grade align more. And part of that is just finding a balance. So when kids get to 7th grade, They are often super excited because they get more opportunities and the opportunities to play on these teams that are officially school-sponsored sports now that they're in 7th and 8th grade. And so we, of course, want kids to take advantage of those opportunities to try things out and see what they like or what they don't like. But that may make things a little bit harder because then they're trying to plan it or they're trying to balance or figure out when to do their schoolwork, and time is a little bit less available than it used to be. So what we have pulled together on this slide is not every sport that's available, but just the ones that come up early in the year. Because in some of them, and I put start in quotes, they kind of start over the summer, or they might send information this semester before the summer starts. And for instance, cross country, they may do a few optional runs together on campus over the summer or something like that. So these are the coaches who have sponsored these sports this year. The coaches could change due to staffing or personal preference or something like that. But Ms. Sedgwick is in charge of cross country, Mr. Archer does softball, we have Guillermo Vallejo in charge of volleyball, Eric Dahm for football, and Acacia Kelly for football cheerleading. Those are the sports that will get started pretty quickly once the year starts. But as I said, one of the challenges of 7th grade, I think, is really just helping your kid find a balance and be organized. This year we provided planners for all of the kids. They're not required in 7th grade for next year, so they don't have to have one. But we try to get them to get in the habit of writing down what they need to do somewhere. So whether it's in a planner, whether it's on a sticky note, or whether they use Blackbaud as their checklist, something that helps them stay organized. The only tidbit I learned about Blackbaud is that in high school, the teachers aren't required to post homework there. So I like to encourage kids to maybe try planner or sticky notes so they don't get in the habit of checking Blackbaud, and then that'll go away in a few years once they get to high school. One of the things particular to 7th grade is final exams. So they'll start final exams next year. This year they're worth 20%. That's going to go down a little bit next year to 15%. And so to study for those exams, which are in almost every class, not every class, we provide them with a study calendar, because I think for a lot of kids, the first time they have exams and they're like, oh my gosh, this is over everything I ever learned since August, it seems overwhelming and it seems like a task they don't know how to manage. So in 7th grade, what we do is we ask teachers for their input and provide them with a suggested study exam calendar. And Coach Jackson actually put this one together, so I can let you talk about it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We give them about a week to give us feedback. What do you want to change from last year? What books changed for English? They had a change in novels this year. History doesn't change much for Coach Baxley, but always ask just in case. Maybe something on the exam is going to be different. We give them 3 days where it's just that subject on the calendar, so it pushes out to 4, 5 weeks?
I think 4.
Okay. So we go on rotation and in the order of exams. It's a suggestion for some parents and some kids. It's like, oh, thank you so much. Other people, it doesn't work. It's like, that's not our schedule. That's not going to work for us. That's too much. Do what's best for you. Okay. It's a tool. It's an option. That's all it is. We'd rather than not throw it on the floor as soon as we hand them out, which we did last week. And we ran on colored paper, and there were purple pages on the floor. But we emailed parents and said, hey, we sent this, and here's an electronic version for you, just in case they say they didn't get one. We know where they were. But it's there. And then we post on the 7th grade webpage as well. Some people try it first semester and think, hey, there's something better for us, and that's fine. But we just want to equip you with some options for that. Any questions about exams or, it's a little scary for them, I would just generally say, in the fall because it's the first time. We try to push that down a little bit, and it's like a test. We don't want to work it up, and like increase the hype, so to speak, and make it intimidating for them. And there's a fine balance in that of, hey, this counts more than a test. This is important, but we don't want to scare them either. So if you sense that from your child, please let us know, and what's going on there, and maybe we can help. Okay? Because we don't want to be, scared of.
And I'll just add, what I've seen from the teacher side of things, grading them, is that kids typically do how they do on any test. So some of them will, the first time around, say, oh, I spent so many hours studying for this, and then they get the grade that they have gotten pretty much on every test over the course of the semester. So unless there's a huge jump in performance, or just they drop the ball that day, grades typically stay about the same in the class, maybe change by a point or so. But usually it's not a huge jump, and I think next year the impact will be even a little bit smaller since the percentage of its worth is going down to 15%. So that for some kids can help them and ease their anxiety a little bit also. Just to know that it's pretty much a regular test, it just takes a little bit longer and covers a little bit more material.
And if we connected the idea of the planner or even Blackbaud and NES and thought, for some of them, they write down things in the planner and they'll map out their own things. Some of them use sticky notes on the tablet, and that would include the final exam study. And so I'm going to do this. Some of them have their own independent planner. Some of them write on old-fashioned note cards or sticky notes. The bottom line is, how long before you pick up one of those, oh, I didn't know we had an assignment due, or oh, I didn't know we had homework, and then it's like, let's hit the pause button here and figure out why you didn't know that, because I'm sure everybody told you that. And figure out if there's a new strategy, and that's again where we'll be glad to step in and help and give you some options and tell you what's working for some people.
All right, so registration. It'll be a little bit different for 7th grade than it's been for you guys for 5th and 6th grade. So it'll open up tomorrow. You might have gotten an email from Joseph that looks like this. I know you guys get a lot of emails, so you may have to search your inbox. But he sent out some information about registration on the 11th. It has some links in it. And in 7th grade, kids, of course, will take English. They're still gender separate for English. They'll take a science class. They will take history and Bible one semester at each. The difference in Bible this year is that Bible becomes an academic class rather than just an elective. So they do a semester of Bible, semester of history. They don't really get a preference of whether they want to do Bible first or history first. You just register for both and see what happens. And they also take foreign language, and so that's something that we have provided you some extra info on. And if you didn't grab one, you can grab one now if you like or on the way out. But there is a document, and Joseph included a digital copy of it in his email, about choosing a language in 7th grade, because this is the year that they choose one to stick with, at least for 7th and 8th grade. And of course, you have the options of French, Spanish, and Latin. They can have Ms. Sanchez, Dr. McCoy, or Ms. Vaughn for their languages, depending on which one they choose. Dr. McCoy teaches all of them because she is proficient in every language that is on there. Yes. Ms. Sanchez covers Spanish and Ms. Vaughn covers French. So it just really depends on how many kids sign up for which one and how many classes they'll have for each language. But we did provide that document of information if you're not sure, or if your child is not sure which one they want to take. The Foreign Language Department did provide some ideas about why you should take each one and what kind of kid would be right for each one. I know you had something about, Coach Jackson, I know you had something about how your kids chose their language.
And I mean, we didn't tell them what to take. It was their interest. My oldest is now a senior. Scared mom. Took Spanish, and he did not really enjoy it. He did it as he was required, and then at some point after he fulfilled all the requirements in high school, it's like, I'm done with language. We were okay with that. You decide what's best for you. The younger one, who's a sophomore, loves Latin. It started with Dr. McCoy in 7th grade. She has, if you haven't heard already, she has sort of a reputation as, the heavy hand on all the I just want to tell you, Kat has one of the biggest hearts. And if kids will give her a chance, like, yes, she is letter of the law, but at the same time, she knows her stuff and she cares really deeply for kids. And he loves her. I mean, and although he doesn't come visit, regularly, there's a moment when he talks about Dr. McCoy, and the legend lives on. And she does teach. She's capable of teaching all 3 languages. We don't know what she'll teach. We know she teaches Latin. But sometimes she picks up a Spanish and sometimes she picks up French. But he loves Latin and he is enjoying it now and he wants to keep doing Latin. And so it's going to be different. And if you have different children, just understand it's not going to be exactly what you thought it was going to be for each child. So it may vary. So we're happy to direct you to those people if you need one of them to give you some insight. And they've gotten experience with those languages already here. And maybe there's one that they just seem to have sort of an edge for. And that's kind of what I go with. Questions about languages? The other electives are pretty straightforward as well. The Media Tech, they had a presentation a week ago, last week.
Yes, last week.
And Powell Theater, and they got little snippets of the difference in 2D art and 3D art and Media Tech and band and chorus and those things. It's not a full range like they'll have in high school, but it is more than they had this year. And so there are some options there. The math thing, the recommendation will come from the math teacher, whoever they have for math now, whether it's Ms. Peebles, Ms. Siren, or whoever they have for math. And those recommendations will come. And so when you register, you'll just see that, as your option. If you really, question that and there's some concern about what they're recommended for, the first step is just to go back to that teacher. Ms. Peebles sent the recommendation and talk to Ms. Peebles and ask her that. There are times when there's like a borderline thing in math, and it's, I won't say it's absolutely 100% set in stone. It is our recommendation and what we think is in the best interest of your child. But if you have a question, ask those people first. And of course, you can ask Ms. Siren or Coach Kruger. At this point, as you begin to register, you're welcome to ask us. What we see. Anything else on the maths or the languages?
For the electives on here, Coach Jackson, it says you cannot do 3D and 2D in the same year, but on the thing that Mr. A sent out, it says you can.
I was going to ask that question.
Oh, good question. We can check that and verify. Yeah.
Do you have a Mr. A?
Yeah, it says it right there, that's not a paragraph.
There is.
Yeah.
Oh, for the first time? Okay. Thank you. I know last year they didn't allow it, that was why.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Can you remind me, the language, why do you strongly recommend not to change between middle and high school?
Well, I think they want the kids to at least try it for a couple of years. I think you can change once you get to high school. The only times that kids change, I believe, are if they don't pass the class, right?
Yes.
And I think if there is some sort of outstanding circumstance, like if your child is absolutely miserable in French class or something, you can talk to them about changing, but I think they want them to get a strong foundation in 7th and 8th, because the idea is they would like for them, once they go to high school, to continue in the same language. So then they've already had a couple of years then. But I don't believe that is set in stone. So if there is a concern you have, that can be raised when you register for classes. Yes.
The idea behind it basically is where they start in high school. When it becomes a credit for them on their permanent record, they can start at a higher level, let's say Spanish. If they had taken Spanish and finished that level, then they jump in at a higher level than if they're switching once they get to high school.
How many levels
In the
does
big
it
scheme of
go to?
things, does it really matter a ton? No. But if you've worked on it and you're pretty good at that, then the idea is just continue the stair steps up.
Is that all so that you can get AP? Is that what it's trying, because is
Ultimately,
there a Spanish
so-
4 or is it AP?
there are higher level Spanish
Seminars.
seminars.
So there's 2, 3, and 4. If you take it in 7th, 8th grade, you start out at Spanish 1.
2 in high school, so you do 2, 3, 4, then AP or something.
Yeah.
And if you.
So if you switch, you start at
You
Spanish
start
one,
at
or French one, or whatever.
Right.
It's on computer.
Except you can't take any class. Or if you care.
It's not considered.
It's not in there.
Yeah, they'll let you switch.
Yeah.
It's regular.
At the end of the day, it's
It's regular.
In high school.
College
Still
license.
great,
And college is for regular.
because as I mentioned, like, mine is a senior, so I'm done.
Yeah.
And we said, okay,
But it's still pretty neat.
yes.
Depends on college.
Any other questions?
Anything else on electives or registration?
I believe you could email any of the teachers if you had a question about a specific, like, more than that, the way I pretty much. Miss Reagan, I think, and her, Reagan, if you've got a copy of the foreign language information, her name and contact information is at the bottom. Okay. You're welcome. Well, as for registration, it's open for a little while, so don't feel like you need to go and choose everything after this. It's not first come, first served, so you've got time to think about it, talk to your child about it. As Coach Jackson said, they had a presentation last week when we were here on the different electives, and they heard from each teacher who currently teaches that elective about the class, so they may have their own ideas of what they want to take next year. But when you register, make sure that you choose alternatives for those electives and not just, the same elective as the alternative, so that they get something that they may be interested in if the class that they want ends up being.
There are 2 alternate options in there, and it's important that they have 2 different ones. And again, I can tell you from personal experience that some classes may be full, and then they go to the alternate. And my youngest had that same thing happen. I mean, it was like, wait, I didn't sign up for that. No, but you put that down as an alternate, and that's how you ended up there. So the choice, there's still a little bit of choice in that. There is such a thing as a limit. I mean, there's a point at which there's too many kids in a class. Art is a good example of that, with supplies and tables and all of that. Kids that can't have 3 art or whatever class. And that's why those options are there. And they got that in their meeting too. You need to pick alternates, not just the ones you want.
And to not choose based on who the teacher is this year. As we mentioned, the teachers can change due to staffing or class load or something like that. So choose a class where you're interested in the content of the class, not necessarily who the teacher is.
Anything else? Bible is not, let me go back to the exam thing. Bible is not one of those exam classes. We do a project. In fact, we're starting the last little unit now, and they'll end with a project that counts as a test grade. So there's not a final exam in Bible. Government does not, if they choose government as an elective class, because it's an elective, they don't have a final. But history does have a final exam. So it's history, math, English, science, and the languages. And this year, it really started last year, but we started moving the language exam into the final days of class. And on the calendar this year, if you looked at our test calendar, originally there was going to be a final exam on Friday. And because the language thing got blended into 3 days earlier, that Friday just jumped into that Monday when the exam, the final week of school. So now they're off on Friday. Any other questions about exams, registration?
Do they register during school, or do they do it after? They do it on their own after?
They do it on their own, I believe.
Yes.
I think 8th grade is going to do it all together because they're registering for high school. It's a little bit different. But 7th grade, they don't do it during school.
Anything else?
So as you guys are sort of thinking about 7th grade and children coming up to 7th grade, our goal for them is to grow as, they have each year prior. And so we want them to grow to be more independent, to sort of take more ownership of their classes, of communicating with their teachers. If they need help talking to a teacher, that's what we're here for, to help them. But we want to push them to be a little bit more independent and self-regulating. So you see at the bottom of your agenda, we've got just sort of like an overarching question for the year. And that is basically that, for you to think about what it will look like for your child to have had a fruitful year, because every kid is different. So for your child, at the end of 7th grade, what will have made that year a fruitful one? How will they have grown? And then also, how can we be a part of that? Because that's what we're here for, is to help them grow. And to be there for each kid, celebrate with them, help them out when things get hard. So what will the year look like if it will have been a productive one? And then how does that impact how you take on each day, all right? And what challenges arise as you go through the school year? And again, we're here to help with that, answer questions, celebrate with your kid when something goes well, help them out when things don't go so well. And that's what we're here for. What questions do you guys have about anything 7th grade related?
This is a random question. On the calendar, it said
Yeah.
class trip, question mark, on the exam calendar.
Oh, thank you for noticing. So, and that's a 7th and 8th grade thing. So in the spring, there is one retreat that's an optional retreat that the 7th and 8th graders can go on. And so they do it one weekend, I think in early May, and it's a rafting and paintball retreat. It's a one night, overnight. I went on it last year. It's smaller, it's about 50 kids or so. It was, like I said, optional, so everybody doesn't go. And so that was the tentative date for this year, so we included that on the calendar. And because that was there, Coach Jackson didn't put any sort of review there in case there might be kids going on that trip.
Will they have one in the fall like they did with the 6th grade retreat?
Oh, absolutely, yes. So we go on a retreat with the 8th graders, and if it's the same as the past couple years, we'll go to Shark Top Cove. So it's a different location, but still a Young Life camp, and there's all sorts of stuff to do there. Yes, and that'll be in the fall. What else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm always a little confused about the first day back to
Okay.
school. On the calendar it says a day, and then we get an email about, hey, it's open now, whatever, you name it. When is the first day?
So, I mean, that's an important question.
When is drop-in day? What do you want to know?
Yes.
We have that long. Optional, they don't have to come for that. But the drop-in day is just to bring stuff, put it in their lockers, say hi everybody, that sort of thing. The first official day of school is the Wednesday before the 12th. Good question. You're welcome. Other questions?
The 12th is drop-in day. 2 days. 2 days, yeah. But for those boys that don't decorate their lockers, they really don't have to.
So learn for the locker policy program. All right, we'll be around for a few minutes, so if you've got specific questions or just want to say hi, we'd be happy to chat with you.